In this video we're going to talk about using KnockOut to show through to the polish, and then why you wouldn't use KnockOut. So for this instance, on this particular design, if we go to the wireframe by hitting V, you'll see that the inside design here and panel, the rings, that's all connected with the scroll panel itself. So if we take KnockOut and click here in the center, we can knock that out to show through to the polish of the stone behind it, which is fine as long as we have everything combined together. But if we were working on a different design, and this one has the rings, so they are actually already knocked out and separated from the panel. Because they're already knocked out and separated from the panel, if we use KnockOut again to try to show through to the polish, it's not going to do that correctly. The reason that it's not going to be able to do that correctly is simply because this is a separate object. It's not combined with that panel. If we were to combine it, hold down Shift and then let's ungroup it and combine it together. Refill this here. So now if I were to knock that out, it would work just fine because it's combined with the panel. But for most things, I don't actually want my pieces to be combined together like that, because I want the flexibility of being able to use them and move them around. So one option is that you can use the Smart Fill. You can come in and grab the Smart Fill, and then for the color, if you choose 0, 0, 0 for the CMYK values and then 30 for the K, that's going to give you a 30% black. So then you can just click inside there and click inside there. That's one option. The downside to doing that is that now this gives you duplicated objects, which means that you're going to end up with double cuts when it comes time to plotting. So this is fastest, but it's also more dangerous because you have to remember to delete those before cutting. So if you don't want to have to remember to delete something, what you can do is you can do something called an Extract Subpath. So if we click on this design, we'll use our Shape tool, and then we're just going to click on one node, it doesn't matter which one, any node within this subpath. A subpath is when you have multiple combined objects. Each of those then ends up being a subpath. We've got 3 here. So there's this outside path, and then there's this path, and then there's this path. So there's 3 different paths there. But these interior subpaths, anyway, if we click on any one of those nodes, it doesn't matter which one, we can come up and click Extract Subpath, and that will pull that path then out as its own object. You can't continue to do that because it grays out the option, so you have to actually clear your selection, click on something else, and then click back on it, and then we can click on that again and click Extract Subpath once again. So once we've got those extracted, it's easiest if we go back to wireframe. We can click on this one, shift click on this one. I usually like to combine them together just because they're going to be the same color. I'll hit V again to get out of wireframe, fill them in with 30%, and then I need to move them to the front, which means shift page up will move them to the front of the stack. So in doing that, it lets us have those filled with polish, but moving it around, we'll see that we don't actually have duplicated objects anymore. So in order for us to be able to move this design around the way that we want to, it's best if you take all those pieces and then group them together. That way as you move it around, it'll be movable like this. But if you want to have the inside of the rings polished, and yet you want to be able to have the design go anywhere that you want, then that's usually the best way to do it instead of knocking that out. So instead, if I were to go back and fill that in with grayscale, then I can move it over, you'll see that the insides now are frosted. So if I use KnockOut to knock those back out, as I move that over the top of this, you'll see that it actually shows through. So there's benefits to either way, depending on what you want to do, whether you want those to always show through or always show polished, or if you want them to actually show through to what's underneath.